Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Hi. I hope my camera is fine. If it's not fine, then I can switch from my. I can switch to phone.
No, it's absolutely looking good. You're looking gorgeous.
Thank you.
I might just wait for a minute for other team members to join in and then
Yeah, yeah, sure,
I'm really sorry for the delay.
sure.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. We were just waiting for you to join in. Vaishnavi ma'am, if you like, we can commence the session whenever you're ready.
Your voice is lagging a bit.
My voice is lagging. Oh, okay. I think it might be because of so many. Is it okay now?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Hi, Vaishnavi. So nice to have you here today.
Hi, Sukriti. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good as well. Thank you.
So, thank you so much for joining in, first of all, and thank you to everyone else who has also joined in. And this is the 13th episode of our Between the Introns series where we bring in guests and just ask them their journey in being a genetic counselor and just get to know a little bit more about them. So I'll hand over the uh, stage to Shraddha for now to introduce the guest for the evening today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for joining in, Vaishnavi ma'am. Just a small, brief introduction about Vaishnavi ma'am. Vaishnavi Suresh ma'am is an executive committee member and board certified level 2 genetic counselor. She is also a member of Arab Society of Genetic Counselor. She has more than 5 years of experience in the field of genetic counseling as a senior genetic counselor at Map My Genome. She holds a master's in human genetics and molecular biology from Bharatiya University, Coimbatore. Further, she has done a specialization in medical genetics and genetic counseling from Kamanini Hospital, Hyderabad. With her interest towards patient care and counseling, she has further decided and is currently pursuing her MA in psychology. Having worked in healthcare setup, she is well experienced in prenatal, reproductive, infertility, pediatric, newborn, adult onset related counseling, preventive genomics, pharmacogenetics, premarital, preconception genetic counseling. She has been an active organizing committee member for BGCI conference and workshops. She has been invited as a speaker and panelist to many national webinars, seminars, and as guest lecturers. She is also a part of teaching and training genetic counseling interns. Um, this is just a small, brief introduction that we have given from our end. We know that you wear multiple hats, and to know all about that, I would hand over this stage to Sukriti to commence with that.
Thank you, Shraddha, for that. Alright, so the first question that we ask every one of our guests is what inspired you to pursue genetics and genetic counseling?
All right. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. And I see Parichay is there on call as well. Hi, Parichay. Uh, all right. So, what motivated me to pursue genetic counseling? I think this is one of the favorite questions that every genetic counselor would like to answer. So, I was somebody who aspired to be a doctor, a cardiologist. I was very clear what I wanted to pursue. But then life had its own thing, and somehow, although I cleared NEET, and I was the first batch to give NEET almost 11 years back. So I was the first batch, and there was a lot of confusion, and people didn't know which part should I give as domicile, because I was born in Chennai, and all my documents states that I was from Hyderabad. So there's a lot of confusion, and so many things happened. But I got introduced to the term genetic counseling when I was in my undergrad third year. So I hold a triple major in bachelor's, biotechnology, zoology, chemistry. So in biotechnology, my HOD, Dr. Deepa, was the one who introduced me to the term genetic counseling, and that was something that was fascinating. I've always had love towards genetics from my schooling, and I wanted to pursue masters in genetics. But then when I looked up and I had to do my own research, and I was very clear that I wanted to do it under Dr. Annie Hassan. But I wasn't eligible for the course because I only had 3 years undergrad degree. So, and then when I looked up genetic counseling, like I was somebody who always loved to interact with patients, patient care, and all of that. And as I mentioned, I love genetics. So when both came in together, I'm like, okay, this is something that looks nice, right? And when I did my research, like at least now people are aware of genetic counseling than what it was, say, 8 years back, right? But when I did my research and then I told my parents that this is something that I want to pursue after I do my master's, my dad was against it. He wanted me to do PhD. And he was like, no, why would you do a PG diploma after you do master's? So it had its own, I had to convince, and he was like, whatever, you go ahead and pursue, but I'm not sure how far this is going to be because nobody heard the term genetic counseling. I don't even know what it is. So my interest started when I was a bachelor, final year, and I went ahead and I pursued my master's in human genetics and molecular biology, and I had a paper in genetic counseling. And then I was like, this is it. I'm not gonna do PhD. I'm not gonna write the entrance. I'm not gonna apply to any universities to do my PhD. This is something that I want to do. I was very clear, and I went ahead and I pursued. So my interest started when I was an undergrad student.
That's a very interesting story, and it's very surprising to know that your initial plan was to be a cardiologist and you cleared NEET. That's an
I was very
amazing
clear.
in itself. That's an
I
amazing
was
thing in
very
itself,
clear.
really. It's amazing to know that. Um, okay, so when you talk about your master's, so you're also pursuing a master's degree in psychology, right? So what motivated you towards that, and how has that been helping you with genetic counseling?
So the answer to your question lies in your question itself. Genetic counseling, right? So we all do study counseling. I mean, we do have psychology classes when we pursue our genetic counseling PG diploma, right? But it is not like a fully fledged course. You only have a couple of weeks where you have to pursue. So you have an allocated, say, 10 weeks or 12 weeks for which your sir comes down and he teaches you. We have mocks. So when we talk about genetic counseling, right? So right now, especially after COVID, most of our counselings are telemed. So pre-COVID, it was all in person, right? Post-COVID, people do not have time to travel. People do not have so much feasibility to come down, and people prefer to do it online, right? So there is 50-50. There are 50 percentage of them would be like, we want to come down in person, and 50% would be like, let's do it online, right? So when we talk about counseling aspects, it involves a lot of understanding the body language of a person, understanding the way they talk to you, and understanding what is their state of mind. Although with experience you gain it, not to deny, and you are exposed to certain weeks, but I feel counseling, more than genetics, counseling is something that plays a major role when you do genetic counseling, right? So sometimes when you go in for a pre-test, it need not be necessary that you will end up recommending a testing. It need not be necessary that you will end up taking a family history also. Sometimes your clients, your patients just want to be heard. They need that validation, they need that thing. It's okay to feel what they are feeling. It's okay to go through what they are going through. For that you do need I'm not telling you definitely need psychology degree, but I'm pursuing it out of my interest because This is something that will give me more hands on, because right now when I see a couple coming to me because of the course that I'm doing, some part of it I also do, couple counseling or relationship counseling when they're not on the same page or same boat, right? So sometimes, apart from just telling them, if they come in for a preconception, this is what you need to do because of your family history, it does not do that, because sometimes they're not even on the same page. For that, you have to leave your genetics aside and wear a hat of a counselor only, right? And their body language, especially when it's online, you do not know what they are going through, so you need to understand their body language. Sometimes they do not even have an eye contact, they look elsewhere and they talk, they get easily distracted. So all of these things you need to notice, right? So for me, I chose counseling out of my interest.
Hmm. So the last point that you made about them looking somewhere else, that I think happens a lot in telemedicine. From what I have observed, that is a very common thing.
Right. And
Yeah.
you also, as a counselor, sometimes you do not look at the, now look at me, I'm talking to you but I'm not looking at the screen.
Right.
When I'm talking to you, I'm looking elsewhere. This happens as a counselor also, when, because your
Mm.
cameras will be on, sometimes for those 2-3 seconds you look elsewhere and then you come back, I'm like, no, you have to look at the screen. This is very common,
Yeah. Right.
right? So
Yes.
now when I'm not looking at, now just 5 seconds back I was looking elsewhere and talking,
Hmm.
meaning that as a counselor sometimes even you get carried away and you look elsewhere. You're listening but you're not looking at them. So as a counselor you should also be aware of certain things, right? And you shouldn't get your personal biases or personal things into your counseling session. So for that also, you need, if you have strong add-on counseling, I wouldn't say degree but even a small certificate, that would really help.
Right. Okay. All right. So, what are your views on genetic counseling societies present in India and abroad? And how do you think certain genetic counseling societies they have enhanced the role of genetic counselors in multiple different settings? For example, we have BPCI here, and I mean, we are also trying to create our own genetic counseling society here with these episodes. So, how do you think that helps?
Okay, so in India, genetic counseling is still a growing field, right? Unlike your US, and even in Australia and New Zealand, I think in the year 2019 or 2020, they became an official national board, if I'm not wrong, right? So they have genetic counseling from a very long time, but it still took them that long to be recognized, right? So when we talk about India, I'll tell you one thing honestly. I mean, I wouldn't want to make it as one-on-one interview. Even Pariche, I don't know if he'll agree with me on this. When we talk about European Board of Genetic Counseling, I think apart from UK,
Hmm.
the other parts of Europe, they're still struggling. Like I
Right.
have a friend of mine who is a level 2 counselor, who had gone to Germany because her husband has got a post as a postdoc there, and she did not do genetic counseling.
Okay.
Okay, one is language barrier, second, lack of what genetic counseling is. There is no awareness at all in, still in a few parts of Europe. I think Italy recently started their program. I think they have only 1 or 2 batches that got
Hmm.
graduated. Compared to them, I think India is still better, because in, when you talk about Europe or when you talk about US, genetic counselors only do genetic counseling job. They do their
Hmm.
pre-test, they do their post-test, that's all. In India, we even do head-to-toe evaluation for a child. We
Right.
even do psychological counseling, psychosocial counseling. But in abroad, they have a team.
Hmm.
So whenever you're disclosing a BRCA1 pathogenic report, you
Hmm.
have a psychologist with you, because when an individual is breaking down at that point of time, the psychologist is the one who steps in. But
Right.
in India, we are handling. And in other countries, every counselor is specialized to and caters to one particular field. So you have pediatric genetic counselor, you have cancer genetic counselor, right? I'm sure Shraddha would agree with me because she is currently pursuing her masters in Australia, right? But in India, very few people are specialized to and they cater to one particular thing. So I'm
Right.
not telling that compared to others we are far better, but at least compared to other countries we are still growing. We still do need, there's still a long, it's still a long run, right? And there are many people who, I mean, I have a few interns of mine who came to India to do their internship and then they had gone to the US to
Mm.
pursue their masters because they are like, we want to see how it is in India. They loved what we are doing and then they went ahead and see, pursuing your career wherever you can go and pursue. End of the day, where you're utilizing your knowledge, that's where it comes down to. I think Hira has raised her hand. I think she wants to tell something.
Yes, please.
Hi, Vaishnavi. It's nice to listen to you on a virtual basis. We've met a couple of times at the conference. Probably you don't
Yeah.
recall, but we are on the same. What do you say? Parichay. All of us are good friends. So I just thought it was a nice story that I listened to, and this is my first meet. Sorry, I wanted to talk in the end, but I raised my hand because you mentioned about how in the Western or elsewhere in the world you have somebody like a psychologist sitting alongst the counseling session when you're talking about something like breast cancer or whichever it is, right? So I wanted to know, like, yes, all of us wear a different hat in India because we do everything. It's like it's like the whole course of meal is offered to them. We don't give to them in bits. But I just wanted to know, is that practice, would you really think that that practice is better, or donning all the hats on by yourself is better? Because sometimes you have these patients who are overtly anxious, and then you would want to refer them to a psychiatrist, specifically a psychiatrist, because they might have some sort of psychiatric illness, or a counselor like a psychologist. So what's your, I mean, that's why I raised my hand, like, how do you think that is in India? Do you really think people manage on their own, or they really do refer? Because I mean, at least I know for a fact that we do, so just wanted to know.
I do refer. I
Yeah.
know my boundaries. I know where I need to stop. And I know where, if it is beyond my forte, I'm like, no, this is not my place. And I step out. And
Yeah.
I do give them, even in my post test counseling recommendations,
Correct.
I do put in contacts and I do tell them that please go visit,
Yeah.
especially like I told you for couples therapy, for example.
Correct. Yeah.
I had a case
Hmm.
where there was a couple
Mm-hmm.
who had they already have two healthy female children, right?
Okay.
And they are very big shots, right?
Okay.
And they wanted a male child,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And they had done sex selection in Dubai.
Wow.
They chose a male embryo,
Wow.
but unfortunately they had to terminate their pregnancy because of multiple abnormalities found on TIFA.
Oh my. Okay. This
Okay,
was in India. This happened
this
in
is
India.
this is my case.
Okay.
My own case, my own
Okay.
case, not somebody else's case. I do not
Okay.
discuss somebody else's case. I only tell my case,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we disclosed a pathogenic mutation for ICARD syndrome.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, where
Mm-hmm.
you have dolichocephaly
Of
kind of
course, you have,
impact.
it's a neurodevelopmental condition. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I it was an in-person counseling appointment,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that it was a male child because the doctor called me up personally and she told me that they're very big shots. They did sex selection, and I only listened to doctor. I'm like, okay, okay, but I do not go with the mindset of what the doctor tells me because I do not know what is
I'm
waiting
sure.
for me
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
opposite.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you're
Every
on your own when
counseling,
you're with the
yeah,
patients. No, none
every
of the doctors
counseling
will
has
back you up.
beautiful surprises that comes along, and you should. And
Yeah.
I have only basic agenda of the session. Whenever a case comes to me, I prepare about the syndrome, about the condition. That is all. Beyond
Mm-hmm.
that, I do not,
Correct.
because every counseling and every session has its own surprises waiting for me.
Yeah.
All right. So I go into the session and I explain them what it is because it's
Mhm.
an autosomal dominant. So the
Correct.
recurrence risk
Yeah.
is very minimal. It's
Yeah.
only about 2 to 5 that it
Yeah.
could recur again.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
likely to be a de novo
De
mutation.
novo. Yeah. Yeah. I've
All
had.
of that. But having said that, for future pregnancies, I had told them that they can get the carrier testing done, and what it may have
This
turned
is a
into.
pathogenic variant found, is
It
it?
was a
Okay.
pathogenic variant,
Okay.
right? So it's less likely to recur, but
Mm.
you cannot ascertain that it will not recur, right? There's always a 2 to
Absolutely.
5% risk,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
let alone genetics. Coming to the counseling part of it, the husband tells me, "Ma'am, I'm very content with my family. I have 2 daughters and I'm very happy about it.
Okay.
She is the one who wants a male child." I was like,
And he
okay.
brought up the sex there. Wow. Okay.
I was like,
Mm.
okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, "I feel my family is incomplete
Mm-hmm.
because I have 2 daughters and I want a son. If and only I have a son, my family is complete."
That's what the wife is telling.
Wife is 10.
Mhm.
All
Okay.
right. So whenever there is conflict like this, when
Hmm.
they're not on the same page,
Hmm.
I ensure that I first send one person out. I talk to,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
then I
Right.
send the
Right.
other
Right.
person out, and then
Yes.
this is
Yes. Me
what
too.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I do this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the husband tells me, so what the husband told me was like she has another sibling who's a daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and post marriage she wasn't very close to her parents as she was before marriage. So she has a fear that
Mm-hmm.
once the children grow up and they get married,
Mm-hmm.
the daughters won't be attached to her. So if she has a son, she'll be
Mm.
attached to the son. I was
Wow.
like, okay. And I
Mm.
call in the wife. The
Okay.
wife tells me that I do not have any reason to have a male child. I just want to have a male child. And like
Mm.
is then see, there is a time where you cannot force and question them and ask them, tell me why, tell me. That's not.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Absolutely
And
not.
I called both of them and I called the other partner in and I
Yeah.
told them, see, there
Mm-hmm.
is clearly different stories between the two of you. And I'm not going to tell you what it is
Yeah.
because that is something that you both need to discuss amongst yourself. But
Absolutely.
I feel that it's better that you visit a psychologist, right,
Mm.
and go get a couple therapy and a couple session done so that this is something that might help you,
Absolutely.
right?
And first of all, mother must be also dealing with, a lot of other backlashes, right? Because of
Correct,
women. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
And the husband was like, the reason why I do not want to go ahead with one more IVF cycle is I don't want her, I cannot see her suffering,
Mm.
right? And
Mm.
then she was like, I'm okay, I don't mind, I just want one more. Not, she was not even telling child, she was very clear, I want a son.
My God. Okay.
So we do not know what is her mindset. And this,
Yeah.
although the session went about 2.5 to 3 hours,
I'm sure.
I'm
I'm
not
sure.
disclosing everything
Yeah.
that had
Yeah.
happened during
Yeah.
the session, but
Yeah.
this is a case where I had specifically told them, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
How much I can do. I was there, and then I drew my boundary, and I'm like, no. And then from
Mm.
there we switched, and I'm like, okay, so what do you do and all? And they are like diamond merchants, and they were telling me that they have a shop in Banjara Hills and all of that. And they were like, you should come and visit my store. I'm like, yeah, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So
Hyderabad. Okay.
yeah, Hyderabad. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So sometimes when the session goes in too much, when they are not, I divert.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
a different
okay,
tangent. Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah. You need to root
yeah,
them back. Yeah.
correct. So in such cases, I ensure I draw my line. I do not. I
Mm-hmm.
know where my limit is. I know what my limit is. I
Mm-hmm.
know where I need to draw my line, and I stop it there. And I'm like, no, this is something that I cannot handle.
Mm-hmm.
We have had cases of child having dissociative personality disorder,
Yeah.
and one of the pediatric neurologists diagnosed it as autism spectrum disorder, recommended for microarray and
Wow.
whole exome. So and I'm like, no, this child clearly is a case of dissociative personality disorder. So I cannot directly tell the parents go visit a psychiatrist, right?
And also
A
going
5-year old
against
child.
and going against the referral doctor, because they'll question the whole,
They
oh, how
will.
does a genetic counselor get to diagnose
Correct.
a dissociative disorder? Because that's
Correct.
happened to me a lot of times, where
Correct.
you pick up SMA and you wonder why a pediatric neurologist could skip SMA, and
Correct.
you're fighting, and of course I've always gotten in between
Correct.
a lot of clause like that. So yeah,
Correct.
I understand. Yeah.
So I had to call up the neurologist and I had to
Yeah.
tell, sir, I don't think this is a case of autism
But
spectrum
did he
disorder. This
agree?
looks more like dissociative personality. And,
Mm.
sir, I think I'm not going to directly recommend them to a psychiatrist,
Mm.
because in India, psychiatrist meaning that the child has some psychological
Absolutely.
condition. So I
Absolutely.
slowly told them, first visit a child psychologist, get it evaluated, and then you take a call.
Mm.
And then the
Mm.
parents also understood, and the doctor was also supportive in that case. So
Mm.
it's
That's okay,
okay,
Parichay.
Parichay. Okay, Parichay. So yeah, so I know where to draw my boundaries. I don't go beyond that.
Mm. Mm.
Not even now, like no. And even when I have very difficult cases, you do get grief transfer, guilt transfer to yourself when you're disclosing something. So the
Correct.
transfer of grief, the transfer of guilt, that is very strong. So sometimes I do not take up sessions even if I am not in a right mindset. So I do not do that. I call
Okay.
up my team and I'm like, no, this is too much for me. I don't think I can take it further. So I know to draw my boundaries and I'm like, no, because
Yeah.
everybody has burnouts, right? You never know whether it happens after one case, after two cases.
I hope I'm not, barging into Sukriti, and I don't know what the other one's name. I'm so sorry.
Shraddha.
Shraddha, sorry, I don't know, because this is a very interesting thing that I saw your post on LinkedIn, Vaishnavi, and which is why I was like, let me just, it's Vaishnavi talking, so let me just, think. It's a lovely session. I'm liking it. I feel less, because no offense, there's a lot of other, groups and stuff like that. A lot of places where you have a lot of tips. You want to say a lot of things, but you don't want to say it. But I feel like this is a safe space to talk about what you exactly feel. Your experiences feel more candid than ever, because a lot of other places it's covered up in layers of opinions. So I feel
Very true.
I really want to
I
show
would be
my
more
face.
happy if you could keep your camera on, because for some
Exactly.
reason I didn't. I just
So,
okay. Now I recognize you. For
yeah, of
some reason
course.
I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. So Divya, you must have met me with Divya, Urja, and yeah.
No, I remember meeting you. Now I'm able to. Now I know your face because I'm like, ooh.
Hi to the other people. Sorry, I'm at home, very lazy, just chilling. So I thought, let me join this. I really liked this, and I was just texting Parichay as well, because you need to feel heard. Because see, we're probably tangent colleagues, right, Vaishnavi? Because we've had similar years of experience, and we have lots of friends also who've moved with us. But I've never really felt safe talking about what I feel like when I genuinely want to. When you've mentored people, when you've put out products into the world, and still you've not been known by a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's kudos to people who like y'all who are actually doing a lot. I'm doing barely anything. I'm doing nothing. So, in a platform like this, I really like that we have a good, healthy, candid discussion. And whoever started this, claps. I wish I could join both my hands and give you all a clap, but claps. So, yeah.
This is the second time I'm coming
Is it?
between, yeah, this is the second time I'm coming in, and every time I listen to other genetic counselors talking, or every time they conduct, like
I'm so sorry.
Shraddha
This is
knows me. I
yours.
think I've known Shraddha for the past 3-4 years now. I'm very clear. Like, I do not want it to be you guys asking me questions and me answering, and it'll
Yeah.
just get boring.
No, I'm so
Right?
sorry. This is solely yours. I had to
No,
barge in and ask this just because
no. I
recently
do
I had
not.
one case. That's
No, I always tell Shraddha, even when they sent me out the interview question, I just glanced, I had a look at it, and I'm like, this won't be the order. I was very
yeah.
sure about it.
I'm
And
so
I'm sure that,
sorry.
yeah, this won't be the order, because I want it to be interactive, because I am also still learning. Everybody
Absolutely.
here is
All
still
of us.
learning. Nobody,
Absolutely.
even if you have 5 years of experience, 10 years of experience, your experience does not
Absolutely.
Me,
This is
you
a
know
niche
everything.
subject also, right? This is a
Yeah.
very niche subject. So yeah.
So your and the now and I always tell the junior counselors only one thing: your number of cases that you see in a day does not imply you're a good genetic counselor. Even if you do one genetic counseling a day, you might be a very good
Let's
genetic
not get
counselor.
there. Let's
It
not
does
get there when
does
we
not
talk
have a
about.
direct correlation.
Yeah.
People boast in a day I do 10 genetic counselings, I do 15. I'm like, I can't do beyond 4.
Mental capacity किधर से आएगा भाई?
I can't,
But
because I
then
have to address sales queries. I get calls from doctors, and I go to office every day.
I hope the rest
And
of them are also on the same boat, not just three or four of us.
no, I'm just like,
I think as
suddenly a
genetic counselors,
salesperson gets up.
everyone has the same boat about
Yeah,
GM.
Correct. No, but
exactly.
sometimes, yeah,
And it is so difficult. Sometimes I'm just like, I have only one or two counselings, and I'm just like, नहीं हो पाएगा मेरे से इससे ज़्यादा. Please don't assign me any sessions. Like, I do not want to, because I am not in the right frame of mind to do. If I am not in a right frame, I cannot counsel. Like, I do not want to do, because that is not a role of a genetic counselor. If you should be able to identify when you have a burnout and just back off. It's
absolutely.
Yeah.
okay.
Absolutely. We're all
Patience,
human
yes,
beings.
it is
Yeah.
important, not to deny, but take breaks.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
ensure I take at least half an hour break after each session, because gala to it's gone.
Yeah, you'll
Because
be
I handle
laughing
both.
if I tell you I've taken a break of 2 years, which is not
It's
okay.
fine. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah,
Nobody,
yeah,
see, it's
I've
absolutely
been on
fine.
a back seat right now.
No,
I mean, when I
Vaishnavi, you rightly
everybody,
mentioned that it's important, to draw your boundaries when you're doing a counseling session and know when you're burning out. I was just
Absolutely.
curious to know, like you did mention that you take half an hour breaks during a session. What other ways do you use when you're burned out to, get yourself back into the normal space and then start again with your session?
Instagram Reels.
That was so genuine. I liked it, really.
And I told you the
That is
other day,
a very
right? At
honest
office,
answer.
people were giving me movie gossips about Chaitanya and Shobita's engagement.
Yes.
oh my God, that's
I
the new stir, isn't it?
I'm very frank. This is what I do. I watch reels, or I talk to somebody on call. And when I genuinely have burnout, I message my team telling I need to talk. Like, I have to talk. I have to let that emotion out,
Mm.
because patients do scold you. I've had patients directly scolding me for something. Like, you cannot. And I did cry once or twice. I did cry, because it's not because they scolded me. It's just that, no, man, this shouldn't have happened, right? So sometimes you have to let out your frustration as well. So this is what I do. I either surf Instagram and I watch reels, and I love dancing.
Yeah.
I love to dance. So I save dance reels, and I'm like, this is something that I want to do. I dance, or I watch movies, or anything. I talk to my friends, right? So I have my own set that I do. Or sometimes I don't even do anything. I put in my earphones and listen to some podcast, crime podcast or something.
Uh,
Then my
Um,
mood
I
is like,
love
okay,
some
chalega, fine.
podcasts.
Now I'm beginning to find out the patterns in your brain, Vaishnavi.
You never know at that moment what you want, right? You have so many
Absolutely.
things, so many emotions,
Yeah.
that you're going through. At that point of time, you never know what is going on. Sometimes it's just that I don't even do anything. I just sit at my desk and I'm like, I'm not going to do anything.
mm,
That's all. I just sit down.
that,
And I've genuinely told salespeople when they come to me with questions, I'm like, my brain is not functioning right now. Don't ask me any questions, because I'll not be in a state of mind to answer you. And I ensure they don't. And I always tell my scheduling team, please do not book any sessions during lunchtime, because when you're hungry, also your brain does not work correctly.
yeah,
So
Yes.
skipping lunches, skipping breakfast, you going there, you're also not in the right mindset to answer those questions. So you need to identify where you lack as well. If you do not, then it's not a good sign for your patients or your clients.
yeah. I mean, it's really important how you also recognize your own burnout and how what things work out for you when you're burning out. It's really amazing to know and function in that way so that, not only you, but even your environment gets affected when you're in that mindset. And you are managing that really amazingly. And I genuinely adore the candidate with the candidness you answered that question. Because most of us will be like, oh no, we just go out in nature, or we just listen to podcasts or music. But then the minute you said, oh, I surf Instagram, that's how I do it. It's amazing to know that, that much of genuineness is needed when you're speaking.
And
Um,
all of
I
the
think all the genetic
genetic
counselors do
documents
that, not just
yeah,
me. Not just me. And
everyone does it.
anytime you have a burnout, you just open Instagram and you see funny reels, and I'm like, okay, fine.
I'm
This is
not
something
on
we
Instagram.
You're not on Instagram?
No.
Neither am I, Vaishnavi.
Then what do you
So we
do to
can
have a
be
burnout? Nahi, Shraddha will get to Instagram once
I've
she
become a
actually becomes a genetic counselor and she sees cases and she wouldn't know what to do.
Mhm.
That time she'll maybe start
Yeah.
using Instagram.
And you would be the first person that I give an update to. Ma'am, I'm on Instagram because I'm a genetic
Please do.
counselor. I'm just being a bit conscious of time. I think this meeting would end in about 10 minutes. So I have shared a new link just in case this meeting ends. We can just use that to pop up back in.
Uh,
Uh,
okay, should we? I mean, I
that's how we generally want this sessions to be going on. Like this is a safe space, and we need to speak among each other to learn more techniques and grow our skills as well, and be a lifelong learner. And
absolutely.
yeah,
And kudos to you all for actually, starting. I don't know who started it. Again, repeating because today I'm very amazed. I don't generally talk even on a, national or any platform. I do not put my opinion, but today I felt comfortable enough and enough to actually talk about it. Thanks to Vaishnavi for irking something in my brain, and also thanks to her only because I saw her post and then I was like, let me just join. And yeah, how many? So you've done like 13 episodes, you've mentioned, right? So do
yeah.
you
we
like keep
have
a track?
uploaded them on YouTube as well, and
Okay.
we have an Instagram page too, and we send out email updates as well about our sessions.
Okay.
And apart from that, we have it almost every alternate week.
Oh, lovely.
So
Okay, that's
in
like
between, even we took a year break.
a.
We were on a break for a really long time in between, but
So no, I'm already, like I said, 2 years break. I've been like not good, but yeah, yeah. You guys all
we
deserve that
understand
to be a
having to take a
professional
break
set.
sometimes. We completely are with you for it.
Yeah, but yeah, we must get back to be there for
Yes,
people. But thank you so much. Over to Vaishnavi. I think I'd probably scoot from the call. Do let me know how to get in touch with this. How we get an invite or today
Yes.
since I picked it up from the post, it was easy. But you said you would send it across on mails, right?
yes,
So if you do, you want me to drop my mail ID or would you have it
yes,
in?
yes, you can.
Yeah, yeah. This is lovely. Thank you so much.
We're very glad to have you.
Lovely catching up with you, Vaishnavi, again.
same here, Hira.
Yeah. Hope. How was this time's BGCI? I did not attend.
We were just
I
getting on that question, Hira. We just
We
going
were just about to
after.
answer
I
that.
don't want to say more. I don't want to say more.
No, that's okay. I feel like you are doing a good job covering our part. Amazing. Thank you.
Am I the filler? I'm
Yes,
quite good at it though. People should
um,
consider. Yeah.
this year's BGCI was very good, very different because this time I think I'm sure everybody has seen the theme also, right? So the
I didn't
first time
bother.
was
Sorry.
personalized healthcare and genetic counselors as facilitators, right? So every session had their closing note of how genetic counselors are important, right? So previously, it was only the clinical setups, and it was only genetic counselors were hired only for, say, pediatrics or for neurology or such things. But now, because I practice in map and genome, I do both personalized and clinical. So because personalized genetics is usually direct to consumers, and they don't really go through the process of pre-test counseling, only directly come for the post-test counseling. So there also you do need genetic counselors because you need somebody to interpret their report, right? So this year's conference, every session was very beautiful, and we had both national and international speakers, and it was amazing. Like, it was so nice because initially a few people who told we don't believe in genetic counselors, we do, and who told that we don't require genetic counselors, are hiring genetic counselors and are recognizing the importance of genetic counselors, right? So that itself speaks that, okay, we as a board, we have done something good. And this year we've also had health sector come into picture. So now we BGCI is collaborated with HSSC, that is Health Skill Sector India. So I think from now on the certifications will come with both BGC and HSSC. So I think the next batch, or I don't know from when, we'll start. So when we had our board meeting a few months back, we were very happy and we were waiting when will this become official. So we had people from HSSC come down, speak about BGCI, because for us to be recognized as a national board, we do need minimum of certain genetic counselors. Right now, Board of Genetic Counseling India is only registered under Telangana government because the head office is in Hyderabad, right? So for it to become a national board, we do need other sectors also to recognize us. So first, if they recognize us, then it becomes easier for the national board also to recognize us. So
Right.
that will happen. I'm not telling it will not happen, but people have their own fear of many things that are happening. But I honestly feel that no matter if you have 600, 700 genetic counselors also, it is not enough in India.
Yeah,
Right.
because the
Yes,
population.
true, for sure.
It is not enough. So we are in need, we are in demand. There is a downfall now, but this won't be permanent.
Mm.
So
But
nobody
what's
can.
okay, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
No, because we spoke about the downfall very recently. Somebody from Map My Genome connected with me, and we were having a conversation about how the outflow of a lot of DM genetics. Are we being threatened by geneticists themselves, like who have come out after doing DMs? What is, I mean, because I wouldn't say I am threatened, but I do see a lot of people preferring a DM over a person with, a PG in genetic counseling or a certificate course in genetic counseling. Could that be one of the reasons for our downfall, or just in general you're talking about?
No, I honestly feel that once everybody starts to prefer DM genetics, you tell me honestly, Hira, do you think a DM genetics would be ready to spend an hour of minimum with any patient?
Absolutely not. But that's a given. There are some people who I know who generally love doing that, and they will do it.
Correct. So
Okay?
DM
So
genetics
who
and
understand,
clinical,
yeah,
correct.
who
DM
understand
genetics,
the importance of a genetic counseling.
correct.
Yeah.
So DM genetics and clinical geneticists are the need of the
They
hour
are.
in
Yeah,
India,
yeah.
because without them we also can't do a job. Without us, they also can't do their job, right? It's more of a balance. It's more like a barter system rather
Absolutely.
than telling we are well versed with this, you are not well versed with this, or we know this, you do. I don't think that's how it's going to work,
Yeah, but like
right?
you do see a lot of practices like that, Vaishnavi, because I don't know, maybe each to each his own, because stories are different. You probably have a different picture up north. I mean, you do a little bit of south and north, I'm guessing. But in a place like Bangalore, it's so saturated. A lot of people have an awareness about genetics. A lot of people, some people know a little too much, some people know a little too less. So that's a bit of a problem, and that's why I asked this question, whether, because a lot of people who are asking DM genetics, oh, not, you don't have a DM, then how are you going to counsel? You don't need to have like a DM for counseling, you need to have a proper counseling degree. So this is why I wanted to know what's the rest of the people thinking about this. Do you feel like the geneticists are also the cause for us to just maybe move out of the frame, or it's just it'll get better with time?
This time in BGCI conference, surprisingly, we did have medical geneticists and clinical geneticists give their talks,
Okay.
and they did tell that we do need genetic counselors, and there were a few people who do not have genetic counselors in their setup. I'm sure who knows Annie ma'am knows that nobody, she doesn't care about who's opposite. She stands up
Absolutely.
and she puts her point, right?
Absolutely.
She has been like that when I was a student,
Yeah.
right? So when we used
Remember
to
the
have,
IAMG conferences? You'll know Ann ma'am is going at them.
right. And did you study from Kamineni Hira?
No, I'm closely associated, but I studied in KMC, Manipal.
Okay, Manipal. Chalo.
Yeah,
So you should be knowing. So in
absolutely.
Kamineni, every Wednesday morning, 8 to 9, we have this meeting of every department presents their own cases, right? So if there is something that is where the genetic counselor, she immediately stands up, and when she stands up, everybody is like, chill. So
Yeah.
she doesn't. So even when we had a few people give their talks, and when they told that we do the counseling, and I was like, Kaiko ji, why are you not hiring any genetic counselor? You should need it. And then they were like, yes, I now we understand. And like, see, there is lack of awareness, right? So when you talk about medical geneticists or clinical geneticists, they do need genetic counselors, and we do need them, right? So it is a balance. Nobody is superior to anybody,
Absolutely.
Right.
right? Nobody is superior to anybody, and nobody is inferior to anybody.
Mm-mm.
Right.
So there are a few people who prefer DM, medical geneticists, few people who will prefer clinical geneticists. There are, and the major problem why genetic counselors are not getting recognized is one counselor won't be associated with one company or hospital for a longer period of time. They keep jumping, and mainly they'll be like, we want this much money, this is what our salary was, this is what I'm earning now. After 5 years, I see 1 to 2 years demanding so much, right? So when the cost is also high, they would be like, why should we pay you when you're not a DM genetics, or when you're not a clinical geneticist? That also, there are multiple things that are below the book or under table that does not come out, and people only see the superficial things. So there are so many things that are there, but for a fact that we are trying our level best, and now where I mean, all the genetic counselors, they would agree that companies do need genetic counselors. Companies who offer genetic services do need genetic counselors, because in a day, every counselor would at least minimum see 3 to 4 cases,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
So this is still a growing field. So arguing about who is more, or are we feeling threatened, I don't think this is the right place, because that has its own debate. Like, few people are for it, few people are against it.
I
I
didn't
honestly
want
do
this to
not.
be a debate. I just wanted to ask you because you brought it up. I'm like, are we feeling this? Are we going to go through this? No, because I genuinely felt this in the run for looking out for a
Everybody felt. I
yeah,
felt.
yeah.
Sukriti felt. Shraddha felt. Everybody felt. Everybody felt. Everybody is. In fact, I was like, am I gonna lose my job? Like, I'm not sure. Everybody has felt that, because I think 2 3 months ago there was a huge thing that was happening in the GC India group, right?
I did see it. Yeah,
Everybody, sorry,
I did see it. I
yeah.
mean, I did
So,
go through it.
yeah, everybody felt that their job is at stake, and at that point of time, you're not a genetic counselor. You're just like, I am only Vaishnavi. Like, I have a family. All right, I have my own personal things. At that point of time, you're just like, what if my job is at stake? What am I supposed to do? At that point of time, you're not Hira genetic counselor, Sukriti genetic counselor, Shraddha genetic counselor. No. At that point of time, you're only worried about what is going to happen. At that point of time, actually, people started losing their jobs, and there were so many things that were happening, right? So, what fear we all, I mean, I think everybody would agree that everybody felt that fear of losing their job, and that phase was bad. That phase was really bad. And I told my manager, give me 1 day break. I don't think I can do the counseling. And for 1 full day, none of the genetic counselors had counseling. We were just talking, and we were just like, let us first counsel amongst ourselves, telling, validating our feelings, validating our thoughts.
Hmm.
Because when you're not in a mindset and you're like, what is going to happen, what if I lose my job, what is going to happen. So at that point of time, we told our team not to assign any sessions to anybody. So we were more validating our thought processes rather than doing counseling. So that fear, what you felt, I also felt. Sukriti also felt. I'm not sure if Shraddha wants to come back to India or not, but
No,
she also would have felt, should I stay back in Australia or should I go back to India because so much is happening in India? I'm not sure. So everybody felt that. Everybody had that thought. So it's not just you.
Right. I think you rightly mentioned that it's a balance between medical geneticists and genetic counselors, because even in our team, if there was no medical geneticist, there would have been no one to just go to and ask more about clinical information. Like, they know a lot about the clinical information of it,
Absolutely.
and it's so much to learn from them. So
Absolutely.
without a medical geneticist or a clinical geneticist, I don't think a team of genetic counselors can just work. At least one medical geneticist is
Correct.
needed.
Like, for example, your company has an
Hmm.
onboard MG or CG, right?
Yes.
But for me, I do not have an onboard MG or CG, for example. So I have cases where I refer them. I call up certain people and I'm like, ma'am, this is something that is beyond. I want you to evaluate this child, and I'm referring. They'll be like,
Hmm.
yeah, okay, sure, I'll do that. So recently, also I had posted on GC India group like I need contacts of CGs from Vizag, but unfortunately there is no clinical geneticist in Vizag, and my patient cannot travel all the way to Hyderabad. So even in my report, I ensure if it is beyond my thing, I will ensure I will recommend them for a proper evaluation. And you have MGs and CGs who refer them for genetic counseling also. So it is balance of both. You one is not superior or one is not inferior. So
Yes.
just because you don't have a doctor before your name, you're not less. Just because they have doctor before the name doesn't make them more. So it's a balance of both. That's my honest opinion.
I agree with it completely, because without the medical geneticist in our team, we'd be lost. In some cases,
Absolutely.
we'd be definitely lost, especially when it comes to analyzing cases and putting out reports. We definitely need a final opinion from
Somebody who can do
our
genotype phenotype
doctor.
correlation.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we definitely need that. Okay, so moving on with the questions, actually, I think Shraddha can take over the questions, because Hira already asked the questions that we wanted to ask. So, so
no.
that is that.
Sorry
So
on
she,
that note, today is my
no,
first, it's
no,
like a
no, that's
beginner's
we're
luck, no?
very glad to have you, and we're very, very happy
I'm
to
so
just
sorry. I'm really
provide
sorry
a safe
because,
space.
yeah,
No, we're glad that you can feel that it's a safe space, that you can talk about anything, and that is what we wanted to create. That's our whole first perspective of it.
yeah, I generally
So we're
don't talk.
very glad that you spoke up today.
I
In
generally don't talk. I don't keep my opinions on the table. I don't do anything because I stay low for the for the I've been staying low for the longest of time, and it was really nice. I wanted to actually always have a conversation with Vaishnavi for a longer time, and today, like I will repeatedly say this, it was a very nice. Thought, and the whole journal club didn't feel like it came with an air of thing. It felt comfortable, eased into the conversation, which is why I started. Otherwise I would never open my camera and go on.
Where are you working
very
now,
happy to see you.
Right
We'll
now, me.
Hira?
Me? You're asking
Yeah,
me? I just told you I'm on a break for 2 years now, but like I'm freelancing. So
you're a freelance.
I am a visiting consultant in a lot of places. But again, that'll also, something that I'm thinking. I did get into a few places, considered my whole location to be also a criteria, because when you're have a family that you need to balance between, so a lot of things that, but right now at the moment in Bangalore. So I've been practicing in Bangalore for the longest of time. Then obviously KMC, I did KMC, and then after KMC, Bangalore's been here for 5 years now. So, like I said, Bangalore's very saturated, and this whole topic that I took up was because a certain someone from a very reputed position of a company asked me this during like an interview. So what was my take? So that's why I wanted to know what our the peer feel, or what's their opinion. And it was really nice that all of us are on the same board. And yeah, it was nice. I really can't stop talking today.
No, it's okay.
Person who doesn't talk on
So,
national.
Kriti, where are you working? Strand.
No, lilac.
You're working with Lilac.
Ah, okay. I did speak to
No
some.
wonder she loves Dr. Datar, and without him, no wonder.
Definitely. Dr.
He is
Datar,
one
and
of the topmost.
we have a new CG also with us, Dr.
Oh,
Ishan.
nice.
Yeah, Ishan. Yeah.
Both of them are, of course.
I think Dr. Ishant also very nice to like interact with. He's very, very on the go all the
He's a
time.
very nice.
Yeah.
He's a very nice person. We're very happy to have him on board. Our entire processing, our entire analysis and reporting, everything is under him now, and it's been amazing to have him.
When
Really.
you have an MG or a CG on board, the life of genetic counselors is actually smooth.
Yeah, it becomes very easy. Like we know we have someone to fall back on for almost everything now.
True.
So that helps a lot. Earlier we used to do that with Sachin until we had Dr. Ishan. So now it's both of them.
Yeah, I also think that when you have a multidisciplinary like team with you, it becomes not only easier for the person but the patient as well, because they can get like the correct access of information that they really need. And Hira, thank you for opening the stage. Please don't feel hesitated. You helped me to open up about BGCI. So I'm just going to direct my next question to Vaishnavi ma'am regarding BGCI. You were talking that, different, like we need a particular set of amount of genetic counselors to be nationally recognized. What other roles do you see BGCI playing in the future for genetic counseling as a community? Because there are other communities that are joining in. So how is BHGI going to like turn for genetic counseling?
So I think the first and the foremost thing is to get recognized, because that is main, right? So I think we are all working towards that,
Mhm.
not just nationally but internationally as well, right? So now India allows, if you're certified from other countries, you're allowed to practice in India.
Mhm.
But in other countries, you have to do their masters.
Yeah.
You have to go through their certification process.
Mhm.
The reason being, in India, because right now we're not recognized nationally, so we cannot put in a rule that you have to give a board exam or do. But still, we are still pushing people who are practiced outside to get certified by the board. Reason being, we do need that. We do need people who have been certified from other countries, for them to give in their experience, because every country has its own thing. So we have, for example, Neerja, she's ABGC, right? And we have Nibi, right? So we have Dr. Aparna Dar. So we have multiple people who have been certified, who have been trained and certified in other countries. We need their inputs also for us to be recognized as a national board. It's not just one person or two people or three people. It's a collective effort of everybody, that how can we be recognized. That has to be the first thing. Second thing is, not just nationally, internationally also we need to be recognized, because not many countries know that India also has genetic counseling board or genetic counseling programs, right? So I think it has to be a stepwise procedure, rather than telling this is what we need to do, or that, because if you do one step at a time, there are multiple things that will come behind that, and then I think everything will fall into place, rather than me telling this is what the board is planning to do, or this is the first thing we need to do. I think it has to be a collective, or a collate of everything, then everything will fall into its own sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you rightly mentioned there has to be a cohesive pattern to follow and nationally and internationally recognized. Um, and it will take a lot of time. We do realize that. Um, I also was wondering that even though like there is particular pattern that we have to follow, what do you think about you know there's still going to be a gap between the awareness of genetic counseling. How do you think that can be tackled? Because I think once that gap is filled, that there is something called as genetic counseling, a service that can be provided to the patients, which can be helpful to the whole team of medical healthcare service. Um, then most of the other problems will be sorted out. Do you think there's like a way that we can bridge that gap?
I think we've been talking about bringing awareness for a very long time now. For
Yeah,
a very long time. I have my own opinion. You have your own opinion. I think everybody's opinion should be taken into consideration. Only then we can do that,
rightly said.
right? So spreading awareness is something. From what I started to now, there is a very good improvement
Mhm.
in awareness of who genetic counselors are, what is genetic counseling, right? And my own mom or my own dad, when people ask, "What is your daughter?" She's a genetic counselor. What does it mean? And my mom asks me, "What should I tell them?" I give them one liner, and then my fiance, when they ask him, "So what does your fiance do?" And he's like, "She's a senior genetic counselor. She's a board member. What is genetic counseling?" He's like, "I should come here now." And I'm like, "Now I know." I told him, like, this is what you need to tell people. Yeah, okay, fine. But still, that one liner itself is enough that, okay, this is something that goes from one person
Yeah,
to another, right?
the word
So
of.
initially, when people used to ask my mom, she used to not have an answer. She used to be like, "It is similar to doctor only," and all. Now she's like, "No, actually, doctors refer cases to her, and she does it." I'm like, "Okay, that is good. At least there is some sort of improvement." My nanny, right? So one day I was doing counseling in hall, and she was all alone. So I usually make sure I do not do counseling in front of my family members, because you're disclosing other information, your patient's information as well. But at that point of time, she was not well and she was all alone at home, so I had to do the counseling in the hall. I'm talking when I was doing work from home. So at that point of time, when I was explaining the patient in Telugu what it is, my grandma was like, she's like, "I understood everything that you told," and she was asking me questions, and I'm like, "Okay, this is if I'm able to uh, you know explain to somebody who's 70 years old,
Mhm.
I'm doing a decent job. I'm doing a decent job, right?" So even when they asked my grandmom, like, "What does your granddaughter do?" So she's like this. And my fiance's family, everybody is like, "She's a genetics doctor."
Yeah.
They don't say genetic cancer. She's a genetics doctor. What does she do? She sees many cases. She does this, she does that. And then they call me and they're like, "Okay." So my in-laws tell that she's a genetics doctor. So everybody has their own way of telling what it is. So I think awareness about genetic counseling should first start from your home, educating your parents and your siblings. If
Mhm.
you're able to do that, they are enough to promote you everywhere. They'll put statuses about you. They'll make you very famous amongst your cousins and their friends. So awareness of genetic counseling need not be necessary that it has to start from outside. It starts within your family. If your parents know what you're doing, it's enough. That is my personal take on awareness.
You're
I
right.
agree completely. Like because I got my level one certification just this year, right? And before
Oh,
that,
congratulations.
yes, thank you. So prior to that, I used to have a hard time explaining to my mother, and then now just having the certification, even she beams with the, okay, okay, my daughter is a genetic counselor, and she's a certified genetic counselor.
Yeah.
You know how much value your certificate holds at
Yes,
home?
it
Like,
does.
when I gave my level 1 5 6 years back,
Hmm.
5 6 years back. So mine was the last batch to give in person. So what had happened was, our cutoff was pretty high at that time, and our paper was super tough. I had least hopes that I would clear written exam, and at that point of time, we used to receive an SMS, not on mail.
Oh.
we received an SMS, not WhatsApp, not email. And I had to make sure, am I getting signal everywhere? Where is a perfect tower for me to get the signal? And we used to receive and we received an SMS telling either you're cleared or you're not cleared. If you're cleared, the next day you have an in-person interview. Right? You have to go to that place and you have to give an in-person interview. So I received an email telling I cleared the interview. Same room I was sitting, right? Same room I was sitting. I ran to my parents. I'm like, I cleared my written exam. I'm selected for the interview. And my dad dropped me at the venue place and he's like, should I wait? I'm like, no, I don't know how long it will take. Morning, he dropped me around 8 o'clock-ish or something. I was the first. So they told they're going to conduct level 2 interviews. And my friends and I were like, chalo jaake chai pee ke aayenge, let's go. Suddenly I get a call from Gayatri ma'am telling, where are you? I'm looking for you. You're not here. I'm like, ma'am, I came to have chai. You have an interview now. I'm holding chai and I'm like, I'm somebody who does not drink hot chai. It has to get cold. I ran. And then they told me that I was the first person to give the entire interview, level 1, first person to go and give interview. And man, I cried like anything. And when I was coming back home, I called up my sister. She was in Bangalore at that time. And I'm like, I was crying. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to here. Like, they asked me so many questions and I'm not sure. I do not know. I'm so. They're like, chill. You will clear. I know you would have done well. And the results took about 3 weeks' time. Once I saw that, and I'm like, okay, I'm a certified GC. And then my parents, as if they had like a small celebration and all of that. So I can exactly relate to you when you say that you cleared your level 1 this year. I know how much it holds at your home because your parents would have not known what genetic counseling is. Your parents would have been like, what is she even going to do? What is genetic counseling? I'm not sure. And when you receive that, okay, you are a certified, you hold your license, you have your own license number, that it's like a huge celebration at home. So when you're telling me that your mom proudly says that you're a certified genetic counselor, means you've done your job. You already started to spread awareness. So that's a good thing.
Yes.
You rightly said spreading of awareness needs to be started within your own community and your own family, and then the word of mouth will take it further.
Correct.
And I just have two more questions for you. The first would be that I think BGCI this year, the ninth annual BGCI, also did a lot of talking about spreading awareness, and that was one key takeaway for me, that so many other facilities are also thinking of having genetic counselors as in their community. What other takeaway do you think the BGCI conference had this year that was very helpful for you?
I told you, right? We collaborated with the health sector skill,
Yeah.
health skill sector council,
Yeah.
right? So that itself is very huge. And we also attended the MENA conference this year. So they invited BGCI as one of I think they attended two sessions as two speakers. I think Annie ma'am was one of them, and I think Lakshmi ma'am was one of them. And I think so BGCI is still, so I'm sure like you would agree that Alison is also very good friends with Annie ma'am.
Yeah.
And so now Australasia is also recognizing Board of Genetic Counseling India, and Dubai for MENA conference, and Suraj, he is the first Indian GC to practice abroad without giving the certification in Singapore. So I think Indian GCs are getting recognized, but it will have its own. It's taking its time. I'm not saying it is not. So this year conference, we even had international GCs like Suraj had come down from Singapore. He was there. He was a part of our workshop. So we did have a lot of people who participated during the workshop. So I think this time our main target was to tell people that every sector needs genetic counselor, and every section needs genetic counselor, be it your pediatric, nephrology, neurology, oncology, right? So we had people from different companies coming in and telling that they do have genetic counselors and they do need more genetic counselors. And I think each company at least has one genetic counselor now. As and when more companies come in, I think the demand for genetic counselors will increase.
Yeah. I think that's a very nice stage to put for genetic counselors out there who are working hard and others to accept them as well, because I know it might also be very new for the healthcare sector to just accept a role that's very new. Um, because the term counselor has been stereotyped so much that people just had that one mindset that, oh, why do I need a counselor? Because they think that it's related to psychology, it's completely related to like cleaning their brain or something like that. So I think the awareness is spreading quite nicely, and the acceptance is also going along. The last question that I would like to ask you would be that we have learned a lot today. Like there was a lot of valuable learnings from you that you have given for all of us today. But what is that one thing, one suggestion that you would give to the prospective students or the students who are studying genetic counseling or genetic counselors out there?
If you're not passionate about your patients, if you're not passionate towards genetic counseling, this is not something for you,
Mhm,
right? And only you have the passion, only then that will drive you forward to do what is required. The number of cases you see every day, the number of counselings you've seen over 1 2 years or 5 years or 6 years, right? And how much salary you are earning, all of this will not take you, and you need not be famous for people to recognize you. If you're doing your job genuinely, if you are genuine to the work that you're doing, you will get that recognition. And your end of the day, you have to make sure that your patients understand the purpose of genetic counseling. Your patients understand why are they getting this test done, what is the purpose of this, or what is the purpose of them choosing this testing, and validating their thought processes, their thoughts, or what they are going through. All of this is very much important in genetic counseling. Sometimes even if you do one counseling in a day, and end of the day, if your patient is happy and your patient is telling you thank you so much, I've understood, you have done your job.
mhm,
That's all. So it need not be necessary in a day for you to do 4 counselings, 5 counselings. Sometimes you, even if you don't have any counselings, it's absolutely fine, because you have multiple other things that you do as a genetic counselor. You support the tech team, you support your marketing team to write blogs, right? You support your other, there are many teams that are involved, right? So, as a genetic counselor, your job is not only to do genetic counseling, but in India, because you are involved in multiple other roles, as far as you are truthful to your own self, I think that is enough. So sometimes you need to differentiate between you as an individual and you as a genetic counselor. So I, as an individual, I'm completely different. I talk a lot. I, I go out, I dance, and I love doing whatever. When it comes to counseling, I do not talk a lot. I listen,
mhm,
right? So when I chose genetic counseling, I was very hyper. When I gave my Kamineni interview, Annie ma'am was like, "You're very hyper. You talk a lot, and as a counselor, you're not supposed to talk a lot. You should listen." That point of time, I did not understand. When I actually got into the course, I understood that people want to be heard.
mhm,
So sometimes you have to only listen, right? So your job is to only listen, right? Sometimes there are times when I just stay quiet for straight 10 to 15 minutes and I do not talk, and my only thing would be, yeah, I understand. That's all. Sometimes you don't even get to do that. because they just want to vent out, right?
Yeah.
If you love genetics, if you love counseling, if you love patient care, then this is something that you need to think about, and this is something that might suit your passion. If you're not passionate about genetic counseling, then don't think this is something that is ideal for you. Because of late I've been receiving many questions from junior GCs. What is the starting salary of a genetic counselor? Yes, money is important, not to deny, but I also don't know what is the starting price of a genetic counselor, because it has changed. I honestly do not know. So when they're asking me such questions, I am also clueless. I am like, I also don't know. And when I hear people telling me that you're getting paid only this much, you do so much, and I'm just like, okay, fine. But it's okay. I'm happy. I'm content with what I'm doing. I'm happy. I'm able to sleep peacefully. I'm happy with what I'm doing, and I'm happy. That's all. So money is important, not to deny, but money is not everything. So there are many people who are choosing genetic counseling just for money. I know that as well.
Mm.
So many people choose this field to earn well, but it has its own benefits. It has its own pros. It has its own cons. So people make you do sales work also if they're paying you more. So if you're ready to do that, I think that's fine. But I personally do not believe in selling a product for the sake of selling it.
Mhm.
Sometimes I don't even recommend any testing. And when salesperson asks me, "Did you recommend any testing?" I'm like, "No, it was more of a psychological and psychosocial counseling, so I did not recommend any testing," and I leave it there. Right. So when, if at all you have a case of, say, Down syndrome, you would recommend basic karyotyping,
Yeah.
all right, or FISH or QPCR or microarray, depending on the case.
Mhm.
You wouldn't recommend a whole exome sequencing.
Yeah.
But from sales perspective, they would want you to sell, say, XYZ testing. There are people who do that as well. So I as a counselor, for me, if a patient is unaffordable, I talk to the team and reduce the costing rather than burdening them financially with more and more tests. So
Yeah.
I do not do. So as a counselor, there are multiple things. I cannot tell for the future students, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. If you have passion towards it, take it up.
Mm.
If you do not have passion towards it, don't take it up, because you'll directly interact with the patients.
Mm.
So if you do not have passion towards it, then you won't be truthful to your job.
Yeah, you rightly mentioned, but that's really valuable as a suggestion because I think even as genetic counseling field changes from person to person, and the purpose for every person to get into the field is quite different as well. But the main thing that resonated with me was that know that the patient is happy and you are sleeping peacefully. That's all that matters, and you feel content doing your job, and you go off with a smile. That's all that is important as a genetic counselor to me as well. So thank you for sharing this, and thank you for giving your valuable time with us and sharing all the amazing cases that you saw and amazing lessons that you have learned with us. Um, this was a wonderful time that I spent, and I know any session that we have with you is always less because there's so much to learn from you. So we do like feel in the future to collaborate again, and I will send you out a request again.
Sure, sure, we'll do that. There was a lot of delay for me also, because I suddenly got invited as a guest lecturer and as a speaker for national seminar. So I had to go in person. So that was a week when we actually planned.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I had to request. So I also suddenly received a call, and because of that, and thank you for understanding my situation as well and making sure it happens and I am available, because not everybody agrees to that, right? They would be like, no, it's okay, fine, we'll do it some other time and we're available. But you made sure that I was available, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me over again for the second time. And I hope I was able to at least do justice for the topic that we had discussed.